Everything is personal right here. Everything is personal right here.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to another episode of Everything is Personal. And today, our guest is Dr. Alan Lawrence. How are you, Alan?
I am fine, thanks. How are you?
I'm wonderful. I mean, we know each other for many years. So I'm so grateful like surprised in myself that I haven't done this yet with you because I find you to be such a fascinating human being, such an inspiration on a lot of the stuff that I do. And I wanted people to really understand. I mean, you're not only an a doctor, an MD, but you are an MA, a PhD. You have all these different kind of health related degrees and different drivers for you. I'm just trying to find. I'm not even sure if we even spoke about it. What influenced your approach to like healing, the healing arts? Was there something that happened in your life that said, all right, this is what I have to do?
Well, actually, as was told by my parents, I was a sick kid. I was always sick. I never felt sick, but they said I was sick. So about around age 11, I decided that nobody was healing me. I was just getting medication, and I kept having problems. So I decided at that point, when I grew up, I was going to be a healer. I connoted that with the physician who took care of me, who came to the house and had this wonderful ritual. He would come to the house and he was dressed with an overcoat. Here in Los Angeles, dressed generally with an overcoat, took off the overcoat and hung it up. And then he would go to the restroom, wash his hands. He was always given a special towel so that it was brand new, and he washed his hands, and then he came over to me and he said, "How are you, young man?" And he would look in my ears and say on, and put a tongue depressor in. And I thought I was very impressed by all of these things that he did. There was not such magic with it. I felt better almost immediately. So by age 11, I decided I wanted to do that, and I wanted to heal people. And I went to medical school. I got good grades. I went to medical school, and I went into practice, and I found out that we're not healing people, we're just treating them. And while the dictionary or most of the medical journals and say connote the two together, healing and treating, there is a difference.
Yeah, I really want to dive into that a little bit more, but I want to go into your origin story. Where did you grow up?
West Los Angeles.
Okay. And do you have siblings? Were your parents together?
Yeah, my parents were, all of the years that they were married, my father died first. My mother mourned for 20 years after he died. My brother is still alive. And I was basically a West LA kid. I went to John Burroughs Junior High School, Fairfax High School, and then UCLA. And then I went in the military for a couple of years. And
You were in the Air Force,
loved the
was it?
military.
Was it Air Force?
Correct. Air Force.
Mhm.
Yeah. I loved the military. It was terrific. And when I came out of it, I understood. I went into practice again, and what I found was that in the military, you had a purpose and a goal. When you're in practice, you only have the purpose and goal of paying the bills, making money, and keeping people reasonably happy. But in the military, we had none of those issues of money. You just took care of people. And so I decided as I progressed through my medical experience after coming out of a residency. I did a residency in obstetrics and gynecology. I thought that was a very happy career. You delivered babies, everybody was happy. And it was for me. And all my babies made it. No bad things happened, saved a few lives. and enjoyed the heck out of it. But when I went into the office practice, I became depressed. I realized I wasn't healing people. And so I didn't know what to do. At that time, there were no training programs. And so I decided to go back to school, the UCLA. I was a associate professor there, so I had the option of taking courses, and I got a master's in nutrition and a PhD in psychology, not clinical psychology, just basically psychology. Understanding the human mind made an incredible difference because with that, I began to understand why people get sick. If you don't understand the mind and you just understand the chemistry of the mind, as most doctors do, but they don't understand how that chemistry affects their decision making process, then you don't really see the basis of, I would say, 70 to 80% of all illnesses that are out there.
So how does that show up when you're talking about understanding the mind? How does that show up in healing, both on the patient side and the healthcare professional that engages with you? How does that actually manifest itself?
Well, the key here is understanding that we believe in medicine that illness is an unfortunate situation that happens because of some reason, which is often difficult to find. Some of it is due to poor nutrition. Some of it is due to lifestyle. Some of it is due to toxins. And some of it is due to injuries. And a good portion of it is due to toxic materials that are in the air and in the food and in the water. And yet, when they do studies, and they have done them, there's a number of published studies way back into the 70s starting, where they looked at stress as a cause of illness. We found that stress was a cause of illness in between 70 and 80%. Actual statistics, 60 to 90. I bring it down to 70 and 80% for me, was either caused by stress or worsened by stress. And that's really hard to understand because of the way we think about stress in our society. We see stress as anxiety, and that's the manifestation of it. It's not the actual effect. The actual effect is how it affects the body and how the body then is affected by the stress.
Yeah, I mean, my mom always told me stress is the number one cause of all diseases. And my crazy, curious mind was like, but how? How? I want to
Yeah.
understand the mechanism, because you can just say that, but if I don't understand the mechanism, I don't know how to address it. And I always find it funny because, as you said, like from a healthcare professional standpoint, it reminds me of Voltaire's quote, like the art of healing consists of amusing the patient while nature cures the disease, or whatever that is.
Yes.
I always think about when you and I speak, because the belief system of you're going to heal, you're going to get better, that belief system gets things to move and activate in physically, so you can heal. And if you believe that you're sick and you believe you're not going to get better, well, you're right also, because then your system is going to take that route. So this notion of healing the body and addressing the mind, I think it's fascinating and it's so needed. And how did you come up with that approach? Was that part of the thing that you learned in psychology and in your practice?
Well, I learned the elements of how the mind works, and I was in a very interesting program because I had a lot of people who were at UCLA who were into alternative medicine, and I also read standard Western medicine, and I was also reading psych books. So I was getting different approaches at the same time, and so I was able to blend them and to understand where one left off and the other one picked up. The key And it's really hard for the general public to understand it because we're not told this. The key is that illness is an intelligent communication from the body to the individual that he or she has one or more unresolved conflicts that need to be resolved. Now, the conflicts may be very simple. For example, like you're not eating enough vitamin C and you get rickets. Okay, that's medical. From a logical point of view or a common point of view, you sit on a tack and you get a sudden pain in the butt. You reach down to where the pain is and you pull out the tack and you throw it away and think nothing of it. But the pain was a communication to you telling you that there was a tack where you sat.
Yeah.
The rest of it for other aspects controls your lifestyle. Do you do things that put you in harm's way? It controls your diet. When you don't have a lot of sweetness in life, you eat more sugar.
Interesting.
When you're feeling hungry for something, you eat more food. Now, I know people look at this and say, well, that's all nonsense because everybody does it. And I get patients that say that to me. But the fact is, if you look at it, those people who have problems with it, that's the manifestation that's going on. The intelligent communications at some point reach a place where they create physical signs and symptoms. Those are the things that doctors call the signs and symptoms of illness. The early ones, the beginning ones where the doctors don't think you're sick enough, these are the ones you go to the doctor and he says, oh, it's nothing. Don't worry about it. It's the ones where you go to the drugstore and you buy Tums and you buy Tylenol for your recurring headache and you buy other medications for various aspects of symptoms that are occurring that nobody cares about. They're the earliest symptoms. They're the whispering in your ear saying, pay attention to the road. Eventually, they become disease, and disease takes on a life of its own, so it doesn't look like it had anything to do with stress.
Yeah.
So the key to stress is understanding that stress is a situation that occurs in the individual because of a very primitive part of the human being, the part we call fight or flight, the one that's designed to protect us from predators, tells us when there's a predator. We feel anxiety, we feel something's wrong, we grab our spear, our knife, or a gun, and we either turn and fight or we run as fast as we can. The long haul, when that keeps happening, when the individuals keep being stressed and doesn't do anything about it, the system begins to break down.
Yeah.
The symptoms now become the symptoms of illness.
It's interesting because
medical doctors are not taught that.
Well, one of the things that that happens, and it happened with me, so I know this for a fact. When I go to a doctor and I have pain, so there was an injury, I have pain, so I go to the doctor and I report pain, and the doctor told me, said, well, we can do one of two things. We can either give you a shot for your pain, or we can do surgery to repair what we believe the root cause of the pain is. And I said, well, the shot. And he's like, are you getting a shot? I said, absolutely not. I said, that shot is an indicator that tells me that there's something that's going on. And if I get a shot and it's an analgesic, it's a pain reliever, now I can move in a certain way and injure myself more because I'm not going to feel that pain. I'm listening to my body. My body's telling me if I move this way, it's going to hurt. So don't move that way. And we have this notion of medicine that says, no, let's get rid of this pain. What are your thoughts about that?
Well, exactly the way you think, actually, because pain is a sign or indicator that something is wrong, like the tack in the butt. It's giving you a clue of where it is, if it hurts in the right knee, It's giving you a sense of the fact that there was an injury. It's confirming that. And if it's persistent and it is severe, it may be saying that something was torn. Now, here, the mind doesn't really heal what was torn. The healing may happen on its own if you now are learning how to walk, let's say in the knee, okay? If you're learning now how to walk without putting pressure on the area where the knee is hurt, or you're learning how to act, that may heal up and heal up nicely, and you won't need surgery. On the other hand, if you keep doing the thing that causes the pain, that's communication telling you that you're rubbing salt into your wound, so to say. You know, not physical salt, but the context of you're hurting yourself by doing that. So we're getting information. We just have to learn how to do it. You asked about the medical doctors, and I'm very caught up in the context of I've been practicing for about 58 years now, and I've seen medical doctors, really good medical doctors, and I've seen good clinicians, and I will say that they're a different breed. They're the ones that read the textbooks, and they're giving you the data from the textbook, and they're doing what the textbook tells you to do. The good physician basically says, you got a problem, and here's how you solved it. And he might say, let's put you in a splint, let's keep you off that foot for a while, etc. Not because it's what is in the textbook, because it's what solves the problem.
Yeah. So it's definitely something that is prevalent, and you're right that there's a difference between healthcare professionals, how they may actually study and have a specialty. So they have blinders on because they only know this, and they're not open to hearing other things that it could be because they're not generalists, they're specific. And maybe they're great surgeons. And I think we have amazing surgeons go in, and you can minimize infection, all that stuff. But perhaps we're jumping too soon to cut and take things out instead of figuring out a way that maybe there's a way to stimulate your healing of your body yourself.
Yeah, I agree with that. But I also understand that a good clinician understands the injury or the problem from a medical point of view and can do what is necessary. Like if you, again, tear a ligament in the knee, a good orthopedic surgeon can tell you what exercises to do and what exercises and actions not to do. He can decide to do surgery, and I'm not against surgery. I think surgery is fabulous when it's necessary. He can decide to do surgery and do a great surgery, which is a wonderful healing situation.
Right.
It's when it's not necessary and he does it because he doesn't know what else to do that is the problem.
So I want to go backwards a little bit to your
Sure.
training. I think either you mentioned to me or I read somewhere that you were involved in was it sexual gender reassignment surgery or in the 70s, like early on?
Yeah.
Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I did OBGYN, and I got a call from a urologist one day who I only knew on being on staff at both Cedars and UCLA. He was also. And he said, listen, I'm calling you, and you're the last in a long line of people I've called, but we're just starting a program doing gender reassignment, and we need a GYN to help us with the transformation of women to men by taking out the uterus and ovaries, and from men to women by creating artificial penises. In those that are gender assignment to men.
Right.
And they also, in those with gender assignment to women, was developing and creating artificial vaginas. So it was mostly a plastic surgery kind of thing, although I did hysterectomies in it. But I also got involved with doing the hormone therapy because nobody else wanted to do it. So I was doing hormone therapy for men and women who can't want to transform from one sex to the other. And I got a great deal of experience doing that. The program went on for about a year and a half. We did quite a few surgeries, and then it was stopped because of I won't go into politics, but it was a political thing where a group of people that were giving large amounts of money to UCLA said they would stop giving money if the program didn't stop, and UCLA said, "Of course, give us the money."
When you did the gender reassignment surgery and all the hormones, and because you have some background in psychology and psychiatry in a way, was there? I'm just curious because it was in the 70s, a long time ago. Was part of that experience to talk about like mental health, like how do you transition? You transition physically, but there's also a mental aspect of being a man versus being a woman, correct?
Absolutely. I have a background in psychiatry, but psychology. And psychiatry is dealing with mental illness that, like paranoid schizophrenia and stuff like that. I didn't deal with emotionally sick people. I dealt with people who had anxiety and who had, what we call the non psychotic.
Hey, Al, I'm going to pause for a second. I'm going to pause for a second. Alan, hold on 1 second. I'm going to pause. There's something going on with your connection. So it's frozen for a second. I want to make sure that it gets back, and you can and I'll make this note for my editor. So if you can start again by answering that question about the psychology, it's better now. You can start again. Go ahead.
Okay. I want to make clear that I was not involved in psychiatry. I did not deal with mental illness, schizophrenia, and such like that. I was dealing more with psychology of the individual. And again, I'm not a clinical psychologist. So the key was just understanding the process they were going through in making that decision. It wasn't too complicated to talk with the individuals to find which ones of them had problems emotionally, but the program was designed where the individual had to go through 2 psychiatric consultations prior to me ever seeing them, and the 2 psychiatrists had to approve them, and if they had any conflict with either one of them, they were eliminated from the program. I never saw them or talked with them. So these were all pretty well vetted. They had to have lived for at least 1 full year as the sex that they were changing to. So my role was not to decide who did get it, but rather to when they had been vetted by the program and it was decided by the people who ran the program, the psychiatrists and others, that they were deemed to be a candidate for surgery, or hormone therapy, that's when I saw them. So I didn't make those decisions. But I did talk with the patients and learn a lot about them. And I found that I think there's an interesting dilemma in our society, which we're seeing right now, is that gender is different from sex. A person can be born a male, but have the entire sense that they're a female, vice versa. And so we've got locked into the fact that if you got a penis, you've got to be a boy or a man. And we don't understand that the 2 are actually separate concepts of an individual. Just like if you like chocolate or you like vanilla. And I know that's silly because it's very pedestrian to say chocolate or vanilla, but you know that there's different sets of belief systems that bring that up. And a chocolate lover may fight for chocolate, a vanilla will fight for it. And the individuals who wanted to be men or wanted to be women believed with their entire being at the point I saw that they should be and want to be.
Yeah, I think you bring up a great point. I think the confusion sometimes, and we're living in 2025, so there's plenty of gender reassignment and all these different acronyms and how you identify. So I think we're being a lot more open to accepting that. I think the confusion from what I hear from people saying it is the sexual versus the identity phase. Because if you're biologically born a man and then you then decide or you feel that you're a female, so you go through the surgery of removing your penis and doing all this other stuff, getting hormones, so you're a female sexually. Who are you, what are you, and who are you attracted to? Because we get these, oh, you're a lesbian, so now if you're a female, are you attracted to other female? Oh, you're attracted to men. And that's where the confusion, I think, lies from people that are single sex minded than to people who are, well, I'm open to anything. At that point, I identify as how I identify, but sexually, I'm good with everybody. It doesn't matter who it is. That I think that's where the confusion lies too.
Absolutely. After I finished my OBGYN residency, I spent a little bit of time with Masters and Johnson. We talked about that type of stuff, and then I became involved a lot in community sexuality with groups of triads and dyads and quadrads and multiple partners and such like that. I became medical supervisor of a group of individuals where they were trying to find their identity. This was before and then during the time. That's part of the reason I did it, was because I was working with these individuals. And I looked and did a lot of research, and the gender issue goes back into time, way back into when people first started writing or doing anything. We know that this was a issue, problem, or finding way back in the times of the Greek and before that. Okay, so it's nothing new in this society. The difference is that the society became open for a while, that we were allowing people to make their own decisions. Now we're shutting it down where they have to be what we want them to be. It's a bigger problem. It was a big problem before. It is now going to be a bigger problem because we're telling people how they should live their life, how they should, what sex they should have. We don't have the right to do that. As the physician, I didn't tell anybody what they should be. They said, I want to be. And then I felt, and the psychiatrist felt, and the program felt that they had that right to be, and that surgery was going to be a valued asset.
So, and then you moved, I think you were talking about like the nudist colony and living in the alternative lifestyles, I guess, for lack of better explanation. I'm curious about the lifestyle of living in a nudist colony, how people feel about, body image and confidence and that human connection, because, with clothes on, people judge. Oh, this person is overweight. This person is this person is that. You shed the clothing, and now you're completely open. Do people still have those same concerns and issues, or are much more accepting of each other?
Good question. I was involved. There was a nudist colleague called Elysium here. And because of the work I was doing, I became medical director for about 7 years. It eventually closed, but I talked with a lot of nudists, and I learned a great deal again. And nudism is different than about sex. It's not about sex. It's about the sense of, more often, I believe, being free, not constrained by anything. So people came there to, quote, shed their cares. And they went and they played and they had fun. They played volleyball, they swam, they would lay on the grass, like having a picnic, and they would talk and share. And their body and everybody else's body was just a body. Now, there were those that had sexual thought. There was sex that happened at these things, but that happens everywhere all the time anyway. If you watch movies, you can see it happens even in rich people's lives, even in the clergy. But the key, from my sense, was that they really were looking at shedding the burden of life and having some time free.
But did you feel that they still experienced the same stigma the society sort of assigns to each other when we see people, or because they were free, they shed their clothing, they had less inhibitions about the way their bodies looked?
Yeah, that's a great question. There are many of them had inhibitions when they were out in society. They would come to the nudist colony, take off their clothes. They would still have inhibitions. They would still walk like this, because you were in a nudist colony didn't mean you had to take your clothes off. It was always clothing optional. So you would see men wearing their pants and bare shirt. You would see men that were wearing a shirt and no pants. You would see women in the same process wearing a bra or a bathing suit top and no bottom, or a bottom and no top. Some were totally naked, and others were actually fully dressed in the sense of regular society, a bathing suit, for example. Um, I think the key was everybody had to do it at their level. And the nice thing about at least Elysium, and I don't know much about other places, but you just could be who you were and not worry about it. And people came, and they may have been judgmental when they came, and the judgment would eventually go away because it was just now, you were with people and you were talking with them and you were being with them, and you were not judging them for what they were, who, what clothing they were. You might still judge them for who they were,
Yeah.
because sometimes the people were mean spirited, even naked, and others were really delightful with clothes on. So you really couldn't, you had to take the whole person and the situation and make that into an issue, make that into a something that you took with you and you left with, not holding any negative images.
At some point, through your life and your practice, you started writing books, and you wrote this book. Let me see if I can get the name right. When your body talks, when your body talks, listen. I think that's what it is. So I wanted to ask you about people tuning into their bodies to prevent overall disease and focus on their health, because I get these calls and people talk to me. I'm not a medical professional, but I play one sometimes, and I have people like you that I can rely on that'll give me that advice. But people come to me for all that kind of stuff, and I always say to them, sort of listen to your body, listen to your body. But can you kind of go into that a little bit more on what people can do to actually tune in to their bodies so they can help to prevent their own dis-ease, as you were just saying earlier?
Yeah, thank you. Great question. The way I perceive it is that the body is always talking to you. People are not always listening. I'm sitting and I can feel my buttocks on the chair. I can feel my arms on the arm of the chair. I can feel my hands when I clap. I can feel the sun when I go out. That's your body communicating. Say you're out in the sun, feel the sun. So it's always talking to you. The dilemma is that we sort of shut it off with that. We have amazing sensory system, but we can get very overwhelmed. The sensory system can get overwhelmed. We're having, actually, if you think about it, trillions of pieces of information coming to us from all around us. Joe speaking over in the corner, Sid talking to his friend over here, telephone ringing, somebody walking in the door. All of these things we tend to hear what we hear and then shut off so we stop hearing what we don't want to hear. We are smart enough to turn off the things we don't want to hear so that we can hear the things we want to hear. And I'm not talking just about the words, I'm talking about the sounds. Now, we do the same thing with those feelings that we have inside. We can call some of them emotional, we can call some of them physical, and we can call some of them spiritual. They are the sense of how we interpret what we're reflecting from outside of us and what's going on inside of us. I would say that I call these things, when I'm dealing with illness, body symptom language. Again, I reference it in a sense of stress, where you begin to feel signs and symptoms. You feel anxiety. That's the beginning of, I don't know if this is true or not. That's the communication. I'm not sure what to do in this situation. Anxiety is my definition of stress is the difference of the way you see the world and the way you want the world to be. The difference between what you have and what you want. So we perceive things outside of us as good or bad. That's an indication. That's a body language kind of thing. Good turns on where we say, yeah, that's good. Bad, we feel different. I'm making the motions here, but the fact is we feel different. Those feelings, when they come over us and we're not paying attention to what's going on, are information that we should be paying attention to. In the military, if you watch movies, you'll see a soldier walking and he turns and starts shooting at something. And someone says, what were you shooting at? I don't know. The hairs on the back of my head stood up. You see, that's again the concept that something in his body was saying to him, you better watch your six. You see?
Yeah.
The key for it is learning what your body is telling you. And the book is a series of 3. When your body talks, listen. When your body talks, heal it. And then when your body talks, workbook, heal it, workbook. And so the concept is learning how to do that simply by paying attention. I don't know that all of us know it. I didn't really know any of this stuff before I started thinking about it. I learned it by listening to my body and talking with patients about their experience in life. So, yeah, I'm going to say this out loud. Your body is an incredibly intelligent being. You may not be as smart as your body if you're not listening to it.
Yeah, it's a great point. Alan, you're a prolific writer, and not only did you write 20 plus, I don't know how many books, 28, some of that?
9.
29,
The
close.
9th got published a couple weeks ago.
Are you talking about this one right here?
I'm talking about that one for which you wrote a section in the book.
Yes, in the back here, and I really appreciate the mention. It's the anti-inflammatory diet and lifestyle program. So we talk a lot about longevity now. Longevity is sort of a buzzword in health span. You've been into longevity for 50 plus years without it being like coined a term. And this notion, and I'm in the DNA space, genetics, but I was wondering, because with genetic predisposition, you also have epigenetic expression. So if you know things about yourself, what can you do with diet, inflammation, stress, like all these, what can you do to modify things that you may be predisposed to, or if you didn't do a DNA test, you're still listening to your body because you're trying to be intelligent. What can you do with with your lifestyle choices to mitigate the expression of some of these markers you may be predisposed to?
Great question again. First of all, if you're doing nothing at all, you can just get on a better diet and use common sense in the things you do. Stay away from things that you know are bad for you, you feel are bad for you, and then you say in yourself, I know it's not good, but I have to do it. And you do it, and then you end up with potential problems. Sometimes you don't, and we can escape really well and past the danger places. But sometimes we fall into the pit because we weren't paying attention to the fact that there was a pit. My sense of it from the answer to your question is I do like genetic testing because you can test for many common problems, sleep issues, in hormone issues. There's just too many to mention. I imagine you've talked about that with your audience. The key, from my perspective, is if you're listening to yourself when you're eating something, you know it isn't good for you. If you eat it and you have a negative reaction, you know it isn't good for you. If you want to live a long time, think about the process of what's been happening here. We sort of think about where we are now as that's what is. And we look back and we say to ourselves, well, what happened years ago? We don't realize that at this time, the average male, female lives to 70 to 80 years of age. But 100 years ago, they lived to 45, 50 years of age. And 200, 300, 400 years ago, the old people in the society were 16, 18, 20, and 22. The wise person was a 22-year-old in cave days, caveman days. Now, we do see older people, they did live longer, but they didn't have high quality of life. In some societies, they were left on the ice to die with, a simple death. But today and tomorrow is the really important thing. Tomorrow, most of the teenagers, if they eat well and take care of themselves, are going to actually live to about 120 years of age. Now, I joke when I do lectures and I talk to the audience and I say, okay, where would you like to be at 90, 100, 110 years of age? In a nursing home being fed food by a nurse who's telling you what to do because you can't do it yourself, or doing feeding because you're in a mental state that doesn't allow you to function, or driving down the coast highway to Malibu to have a date with a handsome man or woman of your choice. Would you be at 85 or 90 years of age? Which one would you rather have? Everybody says, I want Malibu and I want the fancy car. Now, I'm 85 years of age, going to be 86 in May. And while I don't have a fancy car, I can still drive down the highway to Malibu and have lunch. And I enjoy it. And often it is with a lovely person, male or female, whoever is my friend. The key is we're going to live longer if you take good care of yourself. And the key is not how long you live. It's the quality of life when you get there.
Yeah, 100%.
If you don't have that quality of life, it's not going to be fun.
Yeah, I mean, that's what people talk about, longevity, but I'm like, it's health span. Who wants to live the last 20 years of their life miserable and sick? It's about quality and health span. So maybe we can tell my audience, if it's a possibility, if people are in their 40s and 50s and they sort of reflect back, oh, you know what? I didn't do what I think is right in my teens and my 20s, but now I'm in my 40s and my 50s. Is there a health protocol that I can take advantage of right now? What can I do right now so I can extend my life and double that, 40, 50 years and live and have that health span? Is there anything I can do, or is it too late?
No, it's never too late. If you've already damaged, if you've already have arthritis and pain, you may not be able to solve that, or you may get surgery and a new joint put in or something to that effect. So surgery is going to be helpful to many people, and I'm not against it. I think it's good. I like cosmetic surgery. I think a person should change themselves to look the way they want. They should look in the mirror and say, I love that person. I think you change your attitude. I think that's the first thing, because we are our attitude, whether we like it or not. If we're down, we're depressed, and we're down, and everybody around us knows we're down. And we then make decisions that are down. If we're up, we make better decisions, and we make more reliable decisions. A healthy diet. That's why I wrote the book on the anti-inflammatory diet and lifestyle, because it reduces inflammation, and reducing inflammation reduces arthritis and heart disease and a whole lot of stuff. You got to read the book to see how many different health and medical problems are caused by inflammation, and how easy it is to get inflammation in our society, and what you can do to get rid of it. Exercise. I think a regular exercise program, particularly ones where your joints are mobilized and your muscles stay balanced. It would be great if you had the money to have someone who's well trained teach it to you. It's an investment, but it will be an investment that give you payback all the rest of your life, as versus to just looking at a diagram and trying to do what the diagram says, which may cause more problems, or not being taught by someone who knows what they're doing. I think getting genetics is good. Getting medical evaluations on a once a year basis, the annual physical. I know insurance don't want to pay for those anymore, but you know what? You find stuff early, you cure it early. Reading. There are so many people out there now. When I was in the 70s, nobody was doing this. There was just a number of non-medical people that were writing stuff about this stuff, most of whom, interestingly enough, have been shown to be correct. Fascinating is the doctors were behind the public. Now we have programs. We have training programs to treat integrated and holistic physicians and naturopaths and psychologists and chiropractic. I think vetting the person you go to so that you know they actually know what they're telling you is a real good, smart thing to do. So don't go endlessly if you feel you're getting the wrong thing. You know what I mean? Check it out, get a second opinion, whatever you need to do, etc. I don't know if that answers. There's a whole lot more you got to do. And if somebody wants it, I'll be happy to talk with them about it.
Well, and they can get your books and dive deeper into your content as well.
In the books, yes.
Yeah. So what's next for you? Are there other upcoming books that you're working on, projects, anything that excites you?
Yeah, but I write 2, 3, 4 books at a time. So I never get writer's block because I go from one book to another. Right now, I'm working on a book about healing, all of what I know about healing and how you can activate all of the healing parts of your body. It's not complicated. It really isn't. I'm writing about a book because someone brought to me the context that boys today and men today are really having great deal of problems. Women are getting better because they have women's lib, and women are sticking together, and guys are lost. So I'm writing a book called Boys to Men. Actually, this book is a fascinating one. I don't know if you know it, but I'm using an AI program, which is considered one of the best programs in AI for medicine. And I create the outline myself, and then I ask it questions, and I get the answers, and then I research the answers and put in what I know. So I have access to the whole world research on it, and I give the book a co-credit for writing itself, because the book is actually a partner in this.
Amazing.
I mean, it's fascinating. It's a new concept, and I'm sure people are using it all over now, but maybe they don't give co-credit to the AI program or to the AI itself. I'm looking at, I'm finishing up a book on sexuality, how men and women form sexuality. I actually wrote it 77 to 79, not my first book, but the second. And it unfortunately got to 300 pages and nobody wanted it. And I couldn't figure out what to do, so I divided it into 3 books, about 200 pages a book, and hopefully that will make it good. It tells people how they form their sexuality and then how to solve sexual problems by just understanding the way we are as human beings.
Excellent. Um, so I have a few questions I ask all my guests, music related questions. So let's give it a shot and see what you're able to answer. Uh, do you remember, and if so, the very first concert that you attended?
Oh, yeah, I do. It's interesting because I didn't go to concerts a lot until I had my kids and they wanted to go. And I took my daughter to the first um, Elton John concert in Los Angeles. And then I took her to the last one. She called me and said, I'm taking you to the last one that he's going to give here in Los Angeles.
Yeah, was that Dodger
So we went to
Stadium?
the first and we went to the last.
Yeah,
Huh?
Dodger
At
Stadium.
Dodgers, yeah.
Yeah, I was there too.
Yeah.
Not the first one,
Yeah.
but the last one.
Yeah.
What was the last concert you attended, or was that the last concert?
That's the last one. I'm actually not a music person. I hear words in my head, not
Yeah.
music.
Well, this is going to be a challenging question, I think, to answer. So I'll give it a shot. Let's see, because you're not a music person, but I'll ask anyway. So for the next year, you could only listen to 5 albums, and you don't have to name the album. It can be, Elton John or Tchaikovsky or something like that. What would be those 5 albums for artists?
Well, I can tell you the one I love the most are the Beatles stuff. I just, I just love their music. Three Dog Night was a favorite of mine for many, many years. Um, when I was trying to become a music person for my kids, um, I like classical music. I think it feels like it organizes the brain. Um,
Okay.
Yeah, those are the ones that are most important to me.
Okay.
Yeah,
All
or
right. So,
I feel closest to.
final question. Please describe what your room looked like growing up.
My room, my bedroom.
Yes. Yes.
um, it was always neat and orderly, except for the bed. The bed I would leave disordered so that I would come home and say, "Oh, I slept there last night." I don't know why, but that was the feeling I had. But everything else was put away. I was a very organized person. I found that the world works so much better for you when you organize it and get it to be where you know where things are and you can just reach for it now. Now, I don't know. I am maybe a little bit. I noticed I put stuff on shelves and I turn the label out. So I think I'm a bit obsessive compulsive, and that maybe is good for writing because once I get started, I am a dog with a bone and I don't want to give it up until I got it finished.
Wonderful. Al, where can people engage with you? Where can they find your books, any content that you have, wherever they can follow you and engage?
Well, my books are on Amazon, all 29 of them. Uh, my website is advancedwellnessmedical.com, advancedwellnessmedical.com. Alan Lawrence MD used to be my website, but it's down right now, and I'm trying to redo it. I'm in the Los Angeles area. I I work out of a number of different offices with a number of different groups, so I have varying space and do varying things. I'm really at this point I do a lot of hormone replacement work. I realized while I was dealing with people in the gender issues that hormone replacement is a crucial step for men and women over 50 years of age of healing their body. If you don't have the hormones balanced, you have so many more problems in your life, and the quality of your life will go down over time. So I'm doing a lot of that, and I work with a lot of different clinics. I'm about 7 or 8 different clinics now where I've helped them design programs and implement programs. So pretty much at this point, I'm a writer and I'm designing programs, and I'm maybe starting my own practice again. in the San Fernando Valley, and I'll maybe talk with you about that when it happens.
Sounds good. And for my audience, I really appreciate you guys tuning in. Thank you for the wonderful reviews and feedback and stars and all that other stuff. Thank you for buying my book, Making Cannabis Personal, on Amazon as well. And Alan, I really appreciate you being on. Like I said, we're friends, and I consider you a mentor. I really think that you've always been ahead of your time in medicine, and sometimes it feels odd to be on an island by yourself. But I think the world is starting to catch up to your theories. So really appreciate you being on. Thank you so much.
Oh, definitely my pleasure. I love you. I know I took my phone down. I apologize. I was going to look because I think I remember you and I had the same birthday,
Mine is May 12th.
May 10th.
Yeah.
So we're within 2 days.
Yeah. You're a fellow Taurus. So
Yep.
Thank you so much.
Yep. Thank you.
Hey everyone, thank you for watching and listening. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button, share this episode, and hit that bell. Like, comment. I so appreciate that. And check me out on social under Len May or Len May DNA. Find out more on LinkedIn or lenmaycoaching.com. And remember, everything is personal.